and Mark McCloskey joins us now via Skype, and right there he's got the Mark McCloskey U.S. Senate. They got the photo wall. It's official when you get that photo wall. Mark, it's good to see you. Boy, what a difference almost a year makes. So first off, welcome to the show, and what in the world made you want to do this? Because now you're going from the fire into the frying pan, or frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, and somebody said maybe you ought to just walk outside and drive nails through your feet. It'll be more fun.
Right. Could be more fun, because this is, now to let everybody know, Mark is running for the Senate seat that is being left behind by now retiring Senator Roy Blunt. And I think this will probably be one of those races where the primary is going to be tougher than any general election, because there are already several candidates declared for this. And Mark McCloskey is, of course, is one of the latest to declare for this. What made you want to run for office and for Senate? Because this is going to be a bust up.
Well, it really was a revelation when what happened to us last summer happened. As I always say, God came knocking on our front door disguised as an angry mob, and it was a wake-up call. But mostly it gave us an opportunity to have a voice that we didn't have earlier. And going on the Trump campaign and being part of that, and the Team Trump bus, going out around the country and meeting people and talking about what's important to people in America, a couple of things came immediately to mind. First of all, people are sick and tired of what's going on in D.C. People are sick and tired of the direction of the country, of cancel culture, and the poison of critical race theory, and the lie of systemic racism, all backed up by the threat of mob violence. And mob violence which is encouraged by the media and encouraged by the government. I mean, you've got from the president and the vice president and Maxine Waters all encouraging, not discouraging, mob violence. And the other thing was that as we were traveling around the country, we heard every place we stopped little stories of miracles, stories of where the personal intervention of God in people's lives had made a difference. And we realized that this was a calling. This was something we needed to devote the rest of our lives to, that we would just put our lives on hold and do what we could to save this country and to pull back our freedoms, because it is going away so fast. And if everybody doesn't stand up and pull together right now and say we're not going to be sheep, we're going to be free citizens, that freedom will be lost forever.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. We're speaking with Mark McCloskey, who is running for Senate in Missouri, Roy Blunt's seat. And this, I wrote, we talked several times throughout that ordeal, and I know the persecution by Kim Gardner's office. There was a lot of discussion about Kim Gardner. If people remember, the St. Louis Circuit Attorney who really made it a point to go after you and your wife. There was even fabrication of evidence, and I wrote about that because that for instance, the firearm that your wife Patricia was holding, when that was taken, apparently Gardner allowed it to go to the crime lab, and they took an inoperable firearm, made it operable, and then declared that it was a deadly weapon so that they could try to get some kind of charge. I mean, it was because at that point it had been a paperweight before the lab got a hold of it. Tell me about the persecution from somebody like Kim Gardner, because you were telling me also, in light of all of that, you and your wife couldn't even go out to eat without being confronted by people before the lockdown. You all couldn't even have dinner outside anywhere.
And it continued even yesterday. There was a protest outside my office yesterday, completely unrelated to us, but some BLM activists were involved, and it was allegedly a Palestinian protest. But people spent 10 minutes in front of my office screaming, and it's always the same. It's always four-letter words, and it's not the most intellectual discourse, and dancing and shouting. But we got Kim Gardner and her entire circuit attorney's office tossed from the case. She took that decision up to the Court of Appeals and lost. Took that up to the Missouri Supreme Court and lost. And so she's out. And now we've got a new prosecutor, a guy who was a U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri for 8 years, and then a judge up in the state capitol here, Jefferson City. And I don't know him personally, but everybody tells me he's a fair and honest guy, and he's going to take a fresh look at it. So that's all very encouraging. But the constant threat of mob violence never ends. I spent this morning, when I got to the office this morning, my secretary told me that we'd gotten a death threat this morning, and the police went over and interviewed her, and then came to the house here and interviewed me today. And so it hasn't gone back to normal. And the left doesn't ever want it to go back to normal. They want the mob to be the enforcement end of leftist politics. Do what we say, or we'll burn and loot and murder. And we just have to
Yeah.
put it.
And standing up there and standing up looks like he froze just a bit, but there it goes. I was like, it's going to reestablish itself. I was talking with Mark McCloskey, who is now running for that Senate seat in Missouri that Roy Blunt is leaving behind. A lot of people, and I'm going to ask you the serious politician questions now, because I mean, this is very much I like the stories of citizens who are like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to run for office and do this, and there's some things that need fixing. But obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to be dealing with in the Senate, and a lot of big issues coming up, because the Senate's very, very, I mean, it's like virtually tied. And I know that Republicans would like to get a majority, and you're running as a Republican. Where are you on, like, just randomly, where are you, for instance, like on the issue of Second Amendment? Like, what do you support things like national reciprocity, which is the national concealed carry, where everybody kind of has uniform laws, or where do you stand on issues like that?
Well, first of all, I think that HR 127, the proposed gun control bill, is just a remarkably bad idea. But as far as national reciprocity goes, yeah, I think that's a very good thing. For example, we drove to Chicago to have dinner with my daughter last weekend, and I can't carry going through Illinois. They don't have reciprocity with Missouri. And you have to be worried about that wherever you travel these days. You have to look ahead. But the Second Amendment applies to the entire country, not just the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas, but the state of Illinois and the state of New York. And of course, the Supreme Court's taking up the New York concealed carry law here shortly, and hopefully that'll be resolved in our favor. They just recently had a unanimous decision in favor of the Second Amendment with regard to the confiscation of weapons on a community, monitoring type case. But there's always the impetus on the left to take our weapons away.
Right.
And in the last year that we had statistics on, I think 5 times as many people were killed with cutting objects as with rifles, and yet nobody wants to outlaw our knives. Mm-hmm. More people were killed with fists and hands than with rifles. More people were killed with hammers and blunt objects, and yet the government always wants to take what they call assault rifles away. Mm. Why is that? I mean, is that logical? Is that based in anything except for the concept that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep, meaning own them, and bear, meaning keep them on them, and then under dangerous situations, shall not be infringed.
Yeah.
And so I've always been a strong advocate of that, and it really is a thing that keeps us free, and the first thing that totalitarian governments always take away.
Exactly. I would be surprised if Mark McCloskey was against the type of rifle or that he actually had and needed to rely on for self-defense. That would have been surprising. I have about 3 more questions for you, and we're talking with Mark McCloskey. He's running for U.S. Senate, Missouri. So red flag laws, universal background checks, yes or no on those, the criminalization of private transfers with those UCBs?
Well, the red flag laws, the HR 127 would have some psychologist be able to interview you, your family, even your ex-spouse. Could you imagine having your ex-spouse have the power to decide whether or not you should be allowed to own a weapon?
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, it's very lax with that. And the universal background check thing, because there's federal laws that regulate all that stuff. Like if you wanted to, hand your rifle give your rifle to your wife or your daughter and have a legal, because they're law-abiding people don't have they're not felons, they don't have prohibited possessive records. It does. There are people who say, which I'm one of them, that it creates the national registry. Where do you stand on those? Because that's something that there are some Republicans who are for universal background checks.
National registry is just a way of preparing for the confiscation of weapons. Under the proposed bill, they want you to register your weapons, identify where they're kept in your house, even your ammunition, and there's only one logical reason for that, and that is that somebody wants to come and take them someday, and they want to see where the heck they are. if the current gun laws were actually enforced, a lot of these problems would disappear. But the real problem is, I mean, the bumper sticker goes back before I was in high school, saying that when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns. And all these things that the president talks about so-called assault weapons and ghost guns and all this kind of stuff, makes no dent in crime if there isn't enforcement of the law. In my city, in St. Louis, we have a prosecutor that doesn't prosecute crime. We've got a new mayor that wants to decriminalize everything and defund the police force. And I guess the theory is that if you redefine everything as being legal, there's no crime, right? Your crime is down. You say whatever used to be that was illegal is not legal, okay? And by the way, we're not going to have police. We're going to have psychologists that go out there, and maybe the psychologists will be distributing flak jackets or something.
Ooh, yeah.
But in light of the death threat we received at the office today, I called 911 in St. Louis. You get a recording time after time after time. 911 operator, don't hang up. 911 operator, don't hang up. It went on for 4 minutes.
That's
until somebody
terrifying.
answered. I mean, say somebody's breaking into your house.
Yeah.
There's somebody here with a gun. They're trying to kill me. In 4 minutes, there's no time for the police to come. That's why you need your own gun. That's why you need to be able to defend yourself.
Exactly. I got one more question for you. Talking with Mark McCloskey. He's from my hometown, St. Louis. I used to live not far from you in Benton Park. I was just down the road. But last quick question on taxes. Joe Biden, $6 trillion. He's asked for no offsets in spending the first 100 days. I think that's a new presidential record. The taxes are going to go up on everybody in order to finance all of the new spending that they would like. Your thoughts, your quick thoughts on that as we finish out.
Well, you can't just keep creating fictitious money and paying people not to work and just sending out trillions of dollars in deficit spending. There is no such thing as free money from the government. When the government gives you something they claim is free, what they're doing is making you trade your freedom for a false promise. And it's the same thing that's happened in every other place. It's made the slippery slope to socialism and communism, that the government takes a bigger and bigger role and has you trade your freedoms for the false promise of freedom, meaning free money, free education, free health care. But you got to pay for it someday. And when that check comes due, how you pay for it is with your freedom.
There you go. Amen to that. Mark McCloskey, running for U.S. Senate out of the Show Me State, my home state. Good to see you, Mark. Please tell your wife we said hello, and we're going to be watching.
Okay, and if anybody wants to help, go to McCloskeyforsenate.com. Give $5, $10, whatever you can. The left is going to be coming down on us like a ton of bricks. Maybe some of my fellow Republicans as well. So if you want somebody who's not a politician, who's an outsider, who isn't going to back down, and doesn't have any obligations to anybody but the people we represent, then go to McCloskeyforsenate.com and help us if you can.
Good to talk with you. Thank you. Mark McCloskey, everybody.